Hello everybody, it's Glass Half Dead here, and today with me we have Beeranid 40k. Beeranid, do you want to say hello?
Hi, Beeranid here.
Awesome, awesome. So obviously we've had you on the show before. I feel like the show, the channel. I feel like I don't need to introduce you, but I'm going to anyway. For anyone that doesn't know, Beeranid 40k is the other, better, larger kill team channel on YouTube. For those of you that find my content unappealing, he's the man to go to. Certainly whenever I start a new faction, I go and see if he has made a faction video for it first. That's genuinely my very first port of call with any new faction. You are, to me, the guru of 40k with your tacticas. I think they're really great. But, again, I'm pretty sure everybody knows that. I don't think we need to go too deep into who you are. So, Beeranid, today we are talking about Genestealer Cults because at the recent SoCal Open for Kill Team, you ran them both days, and we want to talk about your results. But before we get to your results, I seem to be doing with the SoCal Open kind of series just an introductory guide to each faction that everybody plays. So do you want to break down, kind of, just in a general overview, brief guide for anyone newish to the game, looking to get into Genestealer Cults? What do they go for?
Okay. Well, yeah, thank you first for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's always fun to come back. You talk me up, you're too kind, but to be honest, you are my favorite YouTube channel. You are actually making the content. For me, it takes me 3 months to make a single Tactica sometimes, like my Astartes video and things like that. That was 3 months. I had to build the team, test it, run Math Hammer, all that stuff. And a lot of times it's, I don't even get the video up till it's been through an RTT or something. And unfortunately, the way that the game moves, a lot of times things are actually outdated by the time I start getting things up for the faction, or it's just a very short shelf life. So I'm not the biggest fan of my own content for that reason. It always feels like I put up is like all this effort for just like the shortest amount of time to be of benefit to people. And I try and pack as much value as I can in that and hope that it continues to translate. To be honest, I think, you are in the trenches doing videos like daily or almost daily, and I really enjoy that. So right back at you, my friend.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, I think the good thing that we have going is that we're pretty much the only two Kill Team content creators that aren't doing battle reports. So if you don't want a battle report, it's one of us two, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get into that stuff. I've been working on it for a long time and now doing the vlog stuff, but it's like, it seems to me a lot of the people that are higher profile making Kill Team content that are getting like the releases and things like that, it's kind of like flavor of the month for them. They're not actually players or emotionally invested in this game. Like, this is all I play, and I know that this is a big thing for you. You have like the #1 Discord for Kill Team, and it's all full of competitive players, and it's just like, man, I wish that we could get some of those books.
Obviously, for those of you that don't know, we are recording this the weekend before the Kill Team annual releases. We should point that out because this interview is not going to come out for about a month. So it's going to be end of December, early January when they hear this. But yeah, we've just been watching the previews for the Kill Team annual, and they just miss all the good pages. What was it? Bed of Lost Souls? They very quickly skip over everything, and then it's like, oh, the dreaded amble. Let's read all of that. It's like,
yeah,
what?
A 7-minute video will get 3 minutes of the amble, and the rest on. It's like, dude, come on, please. I'm just dying to know, are drones more expensive? Are there more tactics? One YouTuber said that like the only thing that went up was orc, a couple of their bigger weapons and choppas and stuff. It's like, dude, what? I mean, can we confirm this? Can we get any other shot on this? Can you be sure before you say that? Because it seems kind of unwarranted. It seems like there's so much copy and paste from what we've seen so far that kind of a thing is weird. And we're running little by little at things like, oh, okay, Death Denied is going to be 3 CP now. Just stuff like that. That is huge cover. It's just, we saw this during their flipping the pages and got a blurry migraine vision. If we squint enough, we can make it out, kind of a thing that the competitive players actually care about. And it's just like, man, GW, get it to us, please. One of us, Glass or myself, if you're listening, which you're not, The community could
They
really use
they
that.
definitely are not. I have emailed them. I email them whenever we get any news of a new kill team release. So it's not like they don't know we exist. I email them and say, hey, kill team fan. Anyway, we are getting somewhat sidetracked. Shall we head back to
Okay.
Genestealer Cults?
Genestealer Cults, yes, my friend. So, quick weird thing here, a bit of trivia for you.
Go.
What two teams have the most weapons from the core rule?
Wait, run that by me again.
What two teams have the most weapons available to them in the core rule?
The most weapons available. Well, I'd have to assume, because we're talking about this, I'm gonna guess one of them is Genestealer Cults, and then I'm gonna guess the other one is probably Adeptus Astartes.
You are spot on. They
Boom.
both have 20 total available to them, which is it is shocking because cults, they have an even split of 14 range, 14 melee, which, I mean, you can pick one of those and it's more in just the range or just the melee than Tau, Necrons, Harlequins, Thousand Suns, Grey Knights. I mean, that they have with both range and melee for their entire combined. So the thing about cults is that they have a lot, and they were almost a deceptive thing because they came out in the start and it was like, oh, beginner players get with this, and then people start failing with them because it's almost overload and they're labeled bad, and that's it forever after, basically, until somebody runs them at a comp and brings it out of them. And the thing about them is it's just that there is so much to them that I don't think the new player really understands what to do with them. It's a lot of, oh, rock weapons are insanely good. Let's spam the max 4 no matter what the format is and take them and go and not be able to get into combat because we're playing on the open board and it's lengthwise deployment and I'm going to get shot up on the way in. I have these little T3 5-up save little cultists that cost 12 points and they just get shot off the board and fail and then quit and move on to something else. And so that's the thing with not AdMech, the other starter faction. That's the thing with cults, is that there's a lot to unpack with them. And I think that is sort of their barrier to entry. I apologize if I'm, clearing my throat fairly often in this. I'm a little under the weather. But, that's kind of where I see it as, is that they can go fully shooty. They can go fully melee. They could go elite. And I think that is huge. The problem with that is that, like I said, there's that gate to entry, that barrier to entry. That means they have like that high floor. You got to be able to think about counters and win condition, what the format is and things like that to be able to bring them to the table and do well. But once you do, there's that really high ceiling to them where it's like you can go and have this be your only team, I think. And a lot of, especially with the past formats where Nova, things like that, Arena with the SoCal Open, all that good stuff.
No, I agree with you there. I think that Genestealer Cults are one of the teams that can do a little bit of everything. I've got to say, personally, I've never been blown away by their Aberrant, but other people have. Other people enjoy that. They do have literally the best weapon in the game, which is pretty exciting for 12 points.
Yeah, man, the rock cutter guy.
Yeah, it's good.
Instant death on the commander. They were so open commanders. It was beautiful.
Okay, so do you have any, I suppose, knowing what we're about to go on to, but remember, keep it for the beginners. Do you have any standout units that you would advise new people, to build from? Let's say they just bought a neophyte kit and an acolyte kit. What should they be building?
Okay, if you're just getting started out, I would recommend with your acolytes that you want a bunch of the regular acolytes naked. Just nothing on them, not the hand flamers, anything like that, because for 7 points with Pauper Princes as a sub-faction, you can basically get a Genestealer, which would normally be 12 points, for 7 points. And Genestealer you can get it for 11, but you don't want to do that. You want the Toxic Sacks and stuff. Anyways, you're getting a lot of value in that little dude. With Pauper Princes, they would be hitting on 3s with 3 attacks, re-rolling, failed. So 1s and 2s. And then they are AP -1 base, and then AP4 on wound rolls of 6. So 16% of the time that you get a hit, when you roll that wound, they will not get a save a lot of times, unless they have a invuln of some kind. So they're just incredibly good. They're like an orc boy on steroids, and we've seen what orc boys can do through things like the Nova Open and now SoCal with the first place win there from Emmanuel. It's just so much value in there. Next, you would also want some of the rock weapons, and I recommend when you're starting out. Yes, the cutter is cool because of that instant death, but go with the saws. They're a little bit less punishing, I think, because the cutters are a -1 to hit. These saws are not. And when you take that strength 8 AP4, 2 damage weapon, and then give it rerolls and it's still hitting on 3s, it's like, wow, this thing, when it goes off, it's just murder. So those are what I would do pretty much with your Acolyte box. You would actually probably need a few Acolyte boxes to pull off what I like. And then with your Neophytes, stand out for me, Mining Laser, just got a buff. It's only one shot, but it is AP4. Is it AP4? I have to think about AP3. And then D6 damage now. So that's just insane, rolling up to 6 dice on your injury roll to take somebody out of action. They're going down. And so that's really good. Another build that a lot of people don't think of, that I actually only thought about until I was running demons, and I was doing this cheesy kind of a thing with a demonette that had the instrument for another +2 and was a scout spec for re-rolling. It was just pure positional great goodness to get her where you needed her to go. Translated Genestealer Cults, that would be the Twisted Helix scout spec Neophyte Gunner with a Flamer. So he is a beast because for 1 CP, you can add 2 inches onto his move, or his advanced move. And he's already got a +2 for Twisted Helix. So that's 8 inches plus 2 inches, and it's re-rolling that advanced D6. And with a Flamer, he can still shoot afterwards for 9 points, super value, and a lot of times you're getting Cult Ambush on top of that. So it's like, man, when that all goes off, he's just flying up the board wherever you want him. Really, really good thing there. And then you probably want a Genestealer. It's kind of hard to buy a whole box of dudes for one model, but in some comps, that's going to be your only choice for a veteran specialist. And you do want to start tying things up turn 1. Even if it's not going to kill stuff in the positional formats, you want to be blocking things off, to be clogging things up, to be getting in melee with a shooty guy so that he cannot shoot. Because all those points are there to be shooting. It's suddenly very inefficient and bad for the opponent to have him not shoot. So if you can get a Genestealer in there and get him blocked off, that's a good thing. So that's pretty much where I would start. Your Neophytes, your basic.
With the Genestealer there, Acid Maw or Flesh Hooks?
I usually do Acid Maw because, the range starts getting cramped and you want that AP3 to be able to swing around because he's so versatile. He will have the Rending Claws, he will have the Scything Talons, and he'll have the Acid Maw. So you could do for T3 and low save models or things with an invuln, the math is better to use the Scything Talons because you'll be hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s, and you against anything else, you'll just use the Acid. So AP -3 damage, 2 damage on wound rolls of 6. Very nice.
Okay, cool.
The auto guns have better range, but I'm not a good enough player to be able to do Cult Ambush on a random on a 5-up and get the ones that should be in the back, and the things that should be, with shorter range weapons in the front, stuff like that. I feel like it's better to just put all the shotguns on all your basic Neophyte boys if you're running positional like I was at SoCal.
Well, I think that's a great segue into what do you mean? Okay, thank you for covering that for the new people. Hopefully the new people have a little bit of an idea of what Genestealer Cults can do. Or not necessarily new people, but new to Genestealer Cults. But you said, obviously I totally know what you mean. But for other people out there, could you explain what you mean by running positionals?
So this is a great thing that I'm happy you brought up because I get asked a lot of times, what is a good list? And the fact of the matter is, I don't know. When you post something and say, oh, I'm thinking about taking this to the next tournament, it's not enough information. We need to know what the format is because there are formats like the Nova Open, for example, to a degree, and especially with Arena, where kills, if you don't want it to be there, it doesn't have to be there. If you want to go pure positional and play, if I get my model to this point on the board, he scores points. No kills are required. You can play it that way. And Genestealer Cults do really well in those formats because you can take cheap bodies. See, this comes down to something I call the win condition. and the win condition is different. You need to know, what do I need to do to win the game? People don't really think about it like this. But the fact of the matter is, everything that you do should be pointing towards that. And in the positional game, it's max bodies, as many wounds as you can get on the table. Like my cult list was 20 models, 21 wounds. That's why the Aberrant was in that list. He wasn't there to necessarily have to kill anything. It was just max wounds, stuff like that. So the win condition of positional is, you're looking at your secondaries, you're taking positional secondaries. And the fact of the matter is, on the board, a lot of times in those games, you're scoring 1 point for holding one objective, 1 point for holding two objectives, and 1 point for holding more objectives than your opponent has. So if you pick also positional secondaries, it can almost be solitaire at that point. Doesn't really matter what your opponent's up to, because you can run a 5-point guy up and block that hallway. Cult Ambush is going to let you do that a lot of times. And especially with the advanced moves on stuff like I was saying with the Scout and things like that, being able to run him up before anybody has a chance to get down that corridor and just stick a body there, because the rules say you cannot move within 2 inches of this model without declaring a charge. Okay, so no matter what, that is now held that turn. And that's basically it. You're just grinding through in the positional format a lot of times.
Do you feel there's any merit in talking about, you know what, let's talk about it. Do you want to talk a little bit about, before we get into SoCal and how you ran what you ran, do you want to talk a little bit about upcoming tournament format changes that people seem to be pretty excited about the concept of?
Yeah, what would you like to talk about on that?
So, I think it was kind of you and Zero Stride from the Discord there that brought it to my attention whilst we were at SoCal. The idea of running what big ITC for 40k runs, which is the primary objective gets changed from what we currently have, of course, which is hold one, score one, hold another, score another, hold more, score another, to hold one, hold more, kill one, kill more.
Okay.
Now, I know that you're a fan of this, in theory, as long as your thoughts haven't changed. But talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so I've been fortunate to be able to play test this stuff a little bit. I got to play some of the LVO packet already with Alex, and some of the Slaughterfest packet already that's coming out for the 2020 events. So basically, the way it is, to back things up a little bit, everything is basically based on Nova. Nova was our first comp, and Nova decided hold one, hold more, kill one, kill more, or hold one, hold more, and no, hold one, hold two, hold more, excuse me, was the way to go. They borrowed this over from from 40k ITC, basically word for word on the positional stuff, except for they completely got rid of kills, and then they added in one of the positional secondaries, which was hold two. And so we've basically only been playing half of a game at this point. All of this stuff, the secondary objectives, they were supposed to be free choice secondaries. It was built to be that. It's been pods of 6 pretty much in every comp. And instead of hold one, hold more, kill one, kill more, it's been hold one, hold two, hold more. Nothing on kills, no incentive to take kills. And so what we've basically seen is, as I was talking about, the win condition was take max bodies, pretty much. Take max bodies, board control, positional only. Kills are optional. Kills do not even need to be in the realm of the game. I think I made probably 5 kills my entire thing at SoCal Open with my cult list, and took co-third. So it was like, that's ridiculous, So the thing about it is we've been playing a nerfed format, and finally, people are saying, wait a minute, this was all based off of this other format that is super play tested. It's a sister game. It's working all over the world. It's getting wins for positional play. It's getting wins for melee elite, shooty elite, for alpha or beta strike armies, all this different stuff. Why not try it out? And so that's what's going to happen is for the 2020 format on the West Coast circuit. So Las Vegas Open, Bay Area Open, SoCal Open, Slaughterfest. These are all going to be this new format with a little tweak here and there, but it's pretty much going to be hold one, hold more, kill one, kill more. and the meta is going to be hugely different, I personally feel. Because, for example, a big gatekeeper list was the 20 Hormigaunt or 20 man Tyranid list, 18 or 19 Hormigaunts, 1 or 2 warriors. There was no con to taking those. There was no issues with that at all. They were good things and only good things to take those 4-point Hormigaunts. Now, those little guys with toughness 3 and a 6-up save, bad leadership, all this stuff, it's a potential liability because you are now getting points to be able to kill things. And killing things is now...
Hold on. But Beeranid, I counter your argument. You could have taken the secondary objective, cut apart.
Well, it was only available in certain games. Or, that's why I was saying there was pods of 6 choices on your secondaries that you could take. And if half the game is already guaranteed positional, you're usually looking for positional and building up towards that anyway. Whereas it's usually better to do that than to spread your forces and be doing hopefully some kills for maybe 3 points max in a game or something like that. And then the rest positional that somebody that's specialized is doing better than you. That's why I'm kind of thinking that things kind of change and that those secondaries, limited as they were not enough, if that makes sense.
So I kind of threw that at you because I think that argument is silly. Yes, cut apart already incentivizes killing, but not nearly as much as anything else. But I do have, I suppose, a bit of a question. How do you feel about... So I'm a big fan of the new, the upcoming primary objectives. Mm-hmm. But do you feel that... I feel that cut apart should probably be removed as a secondary.
Yeah, a lot of the kill stuff is getting changed.
The secondaries, you mean?
For example, yeah, for the secondaries. Like, for example, I think by the time that I say this, it'll be legal to say. Alex is changing the bounty hunters thing to be where, for example, where the model dies, a thing gets placed. You now have to go over and pick it up just like normal, but you can only do 1 per turn instead of 3 per turn. So it's not doubling up on those kills as much, which would happen if we just ported things over straight, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So, like, for example, being able to pick up all 3 secondaries in 1 turn, you can only get that 1 for that turn. Next turn, you got to get another guy in.
Interesting.
So it's not like you're going to get buried in kills as much that way.
I mean, I'm scared of throwing the meta too far over to the killing, because if you did that, the new primaries, and then you also had cut apart and bounty hunters, you don't even need to be on an objective. And that's definitely something we want to avoid. I do think that holding objectives is a great way to play the game, and promoting movement.
You still do need to take them because you cannot let anything go now. A big thing that changed also is that the LVO packet, you cannot max by turn 3. You need that turn 4. And so you cannot afford to give up anything anymore. You need to also fight on positionals. You need at least that 1 per turn with your 2 kills, the kill 1, kill more. Or, you're starting to get where things are too even and things take big swings in this game. It's like a max 24 points now or something like that from 18. So it's like, whoa, big change. And you'll find some games it's just like by turn 2, there's no coming back. And so if you're not doing it smart, so there's things there that new players are going to have to take into consideration. And again, we don't know if this is the answer. We've basically been doing hard one way, only positional for almost 2 years now in competitions. And now we're trying to bring this in. Is it too much? I don't know. But there's starting to be emphasis, I don't know if that's even a word, an emphasis on other things that people haven't really had to think about before. For example, target priority. You can make up to 8 points for your kills right now per game, 2 points allocated per turn. Well, if a team does not have 8 models, if it only has 7 models, suddenly you cannot max. And if you don't target priority right, if you take out, for example, 3 models in turn 1, and you continue to do that, you're going to find by the end of the game, you don't have enough models to max your turns left to kill. So there's going to be positions where you have maybe a rail rifle souped up, ready to go, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, whatever, and you don't take the shot because it's like, oh, I need him to be alive so I can kill him next turn, or else I don't max. You see what I mean? It's like, whoa, it's a brave new world that we're moving into right now with Kill Team. And I think that it's going to be a year of this, and then we'll reevaluate. What we do know is that it's not working currently with the way that the positional is.
I mean, just to be clear, I like to always say this whenever we're talking about this. I genuinely think that Kill Team is a really well balanced game. Like they've done a phenomenal job, and we are only complaining about the top, 99th percentile type thing. Like we're genuinely getting into the weeds, and we are saying if you are playing at the top of your game, this is an issue. For everybody else, it really doesn't matter. Like I would like to stress that I do think Kill Team's done a great job of being a strong, casual, and even casual competitive game. However, if you want to take it to the next level, that's the thing that we are trying to fix.
There are two lists that nobody ever has not run, and I've had them in the back of my mind like this nuclear button that the president has in his office, and he just walks past like, oh no, don't look over there, because it destroys the world, and it's very tempting. And once these things come out in the positional, it's going to be tune in next time, folks, to see what demon player or Tau player won. And these two builds were completely pink horror spam, which at 125 you could take like 50 models potentially, because each 12-point horror is worth is basically 5 models contained in one. And again, there is no downfall in the old way, whereas now all of those guys are free kill points. You're guaranteed to max pretty much. So that was one. Again, you're playing as solitaire. You're just running guys in and blocking things up and grinding it out, and there's no interaction required with the opponent. The next list was Tau drone spam that was different than the gun drones that people are running. It was pure shield drone spam. Because look at what was winning was, things like, for example, the Poxwalker spam. Was always done very well. I think Elliot Miller only lost one game in something like 4 days of tournaments, morning and night, with his Poxwalkers.
And that was when he didn't take as many Poxwalkers, to be clear.
Yep. So, I mean, think about it. A Poxwalker, 5-inch move, 5-up FNP. The shield drone, 8-inch move with fly, 4-up invuln, 5-up FNP.
Yeah.
And at 125, you could take something like 17.
It's
so
ridiculous.
It was just
It's
going to get to a point where, like at LVO, that was what I was going to do. Because I was getting so fed up with it that it was like, look, I need to prove a point that this format is not the way to go for competitions. There are too many things here to game, and it's going to get very stale.
Well,
it's going to be...
saying that, I still think Tau are going to be an issue. You can happily take 10 shield drones and still have your 3 rail rifles in the back, picking off 2-3 guys a turn.
Well, they're working on that too. Sheldon has a thing in his Slaughterfest packet to where it's not just when you kill a model that you score the point, it's when any model goes out of action. So that means if you overcharge a plasma and it dies, the other guy scores a point. And same thing with Saber Protocols. You pass it off onto a drone, he goes out of action, they score a point for that. So there's already talk about what to do there. But Tau are just a great team. That's probably what I'm going to run.
Oh yeah. Tau's really good. Yeah. Well, we'll get to that at the end. Then we'll definitely talk about your Tau.
Okay.
But as we're here, quick note before we move on, because I do enjoy talking about this new primary secondary thing. In fact, by the time people are hearing this, I will probably have released the first edition of my tournament packet for the London Grand Tournament.
And you're going to do hold kill?
Oh, yeah, no, of course. 100%, 100%. Why wouldn't I? That'd be insane.
Well, it'd be great to see the data on that and to see, how things do, what the lists are. Because I think if you run a 20-man gaunt spam, you are wrong. Flat out.
I agree.
Of these lists, it's just like, man, you are wrong if you're doing this still. If you're just going to show up and roll dice with the stuff that used to work and not pay attention to the win condition, thank you for the points. That's going to put me up higher in ITC. Because you are essentially no way the wins at that point.
But I'm going to change my secondaries to compared to what the other guys have done. But I don't know what they're going to be yet. But by the time this releases, I will. So I wonder what I've done. But more importantly, Custodes. They're going to be strong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned, actually. They
Yeah.
don't die. They're pretty good at killing stuff. Do they
Yeah.
need to
And
be
even if you table
nerfed?
them, you're capped at 3 points for your kills.
Exactly.
So you can hold. You can do 3 turns of kill one, or 1 turn of hold and kill with like another turn of, kill and kill more with another turn of kill. So you're basically taking what would that be? I don't know, 5 points away from the opponent just by running that
Yeah.
list.
Yeah. Really
Yeah,
interesting.
the other guy. That's why I'm saying now, like I really think for Tyranids, what I would do is 2 lictors, 5 raveners. It's at 125 points, 7 models, so the guy can't max, 23 wounds. Broken, so good, so good. It's gonna be that's the new metal list. I personally think.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. That's that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Although those Raveners, yeah, okay. Well, I suppose obviously you're banking on the fact you're never going to have to take a leadership check because if one of them goes, I mean,
Yeah,
only leadership 5.
yeah, LD5, and I'm not taking a warrior, so no free synapse passes.
Exactly. Yeah. You
So that's the
wouldn't put
thing, but
a venom cannon in there?
no,
Okay.
nope. I would go completely melee and try and get, because you're safe in melee.
Yeah.
That's the way to kind of think about it. If you're standing and trying to shoot, you're also able to take damage, and I want to be where I'm safe. So I'm either going to be completely out of LOS or I'm going to be in combat. Is the way to do a melee thing like that, which is going to be hard with big bugs, all them arms everywhere. But
I don't know.
you know,
I think you need I think you need a venom cannon in there because you always need someone on the back line. You know, if you're all melee, you're going to need a 15-point Ravener just sat there doing nothing.
yeah, I don't know, man, because they're going to be running out on objectives too. Like I said, you can't not play some kind of objective game,
Oh no,
and
sure. Oh,
they can
okay.
be
So
striking
your
like that.
idea
Yeah,
is to give up your back objective, contest them with all of your guys on the middle two. That's
yeah.
fair. That's fair. That makes sense. Okay.
Take it from them. I would. I don't want them to score, so I'm taking away their kills, which they're not going to be able to even come close to maxing. It's something like 17 wounds if you don't focus fire down on one thing at a time before you start having even like a single model out of action and stuff
Yeah.
like that. They really have to have target priority and think about, if I start putting shots in this model, I need to put the rest of shots into this model, or it's basically, I'm not getting to that break stuff. I'm not getting to where they're shaking. They're still just as viable next turn with 1 wound as they were with 3 or 4. And they're fast. 15-inch move on the Raveners, 9-inch move on the Lictors. That is disgusting. And I'm going to come to their objectives, to their house,
Raveners
basically.
are 12, but yeah.
Yeah, 12-inch move.
Yeah.
But fences and stuff like that.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
3.5 inches additional. So 15.5 on their statistical move.
Madness.
Yeah. So you're going to come to their house. You're going to get on their objectives. And you're going to kill them and take.
They're just going to
be scoring double.
Yeah.
Yep. Just focus them down. Don't let anything stand around, really. Maybe turn 1, because you'll want to have that hold 1 and try to take stuff from them. You might have to hide and prepare for that turn 2 charge. But turn 1, you're going to veteran move anyway. Yeah. Now that Metabolic Overdrive is dead, you're going to take a veteran Ravener and do that 15.5 twice, basically, or 15.5 and then a 2d6 charge. And also, Tyranids with Kraken, 15.5, really? Not really. On 3d6, take the highest on that 6 for advanced on that d6.
Can we just agree that Kraken is the best sub-faction in the game? Would you say that?
One of.
I think it's the best. I think it's genuinely the best. Don't get me wrong, it wouldn't be as good in other factions. If you gave it to, I don't know, Admech or someone, it wouldn't be as good, right?
Yeah.
But in Tyranids, it's insane. It's insane.
Well, that's basically Michael Holy had that at. It wasn't exactly that. it was. Was it exactly? I'm trying to think what white scars are.
White scars is
White
an extra
scars.
2 inch to your movement characteristic or your advance.
That's
I
right.
can't remember. And yeah, you can
And
do the fullback and still charge. But again,
yeah,
I don't
and
think it's
fallback to
as
me, you can charge.
strong
Yeah.
in Space Marines. It's still great, but it's not the same as Tyranids.
Yeah, I still don't think Space Marines want to be a melee team. I take Wolves
No.
because of the fact we do kind of both, but yeah, I don't think that that's the most. I don't know. I get. I mean, he the proof is in the pudding. He got to the end,
He did, yeah.
but I think they want to be shooting. They want to be shooting.
Well, sure, but I mean, he only took that for the extra move. That was the only reason he took it. I don't think he ever used the second part of the faction ability. So yeah.
Yeah, and he knows. You know, with him, the amount of sad hammer that probably went into that was just insane. Yeah. He had it figured out for sure.
Yes.
I mean, he did so well.
Certainly, one of the issues I have when I play Grey Knights isn't the fact that I only have 5 models at 100 points. It's the fact that I can only move 6 inches unless I give up all of their shooting. That's their big letdown. Because it means on any long map, I'm completely neutered as a team. On the shorter maps, I might just, if I'm lucky on some maps, be able to get onto the central objective. Otherwise, no chance.
I think Grey Knights are going to be dirty in the new format.
Oh, yes. I've actually played a few games of the hold one, hold more, kill one, kill more, of which we really need to find a shorter way of saying that, by the way.
Yeah. It's like take and hold was the last one. It had the actual thing from W. The actual term for it.
Oh, what is it? Sorry? Take and hold.
Take and hold. That was the hold one, hold one, hold two, hold more.
Oh, okay, but do we have? Is there one for the killing?
Nope.
Well, I'm happy to just call it take and kill. Hold and kill. Hold and kill. There you go. I've named it. So if you're playing hold and kill, I've played a few games of that with my Grey Knights, and yeah, I won all of my games. Now, it's not entirely indicative, obviously. I think I only played 4 games, and we weren't using secondaries. So it's not exactly, proof. It's not exactly the pudding of which the proof is in. However, it was good fun. It was good fun. But
yeah, man, the secondaries. Oh man, stuff. It's just like you can get behind so fast with all the secondaries and all the 4 per turn now instead of 3 per turn on primaries.
Yes,
it's a big difference.
So we can come back to this, but I feel that we need to get to the main source. I don't know why I've called it source. The main source of the stew that is this interview podcast thing. You took Genestealer Cults to SoCal. Not everybody knows what you ran. Of course, some people do. Okay. Do you want to explain what you ran, why you ran it?
Yes.
Etc. And obviously your results.
Okay. Yeah, so the list was, okay, so some explanation here. Sheldon, first of all, ruled that cults could open doors. That was the first thing that made the light bulb go off with Cult Ambush. So Cult Ambush, it says make a move. And there's been some debate on that. Can they open a door with that? Because it doesn't have normal in front of normal move. Cults are full of this stuff. Like on one of the commanders, it says when you make a run model, or when you make a run with this model. And like I said, the Cult Ambush thing, when you move with this model. And the only other place that we had move was the Metabolic Overdrive tactic from Tyranids, which was FAQ'd recently. What does move mean? It means normal move. So some TOs have started to integrate that into the other places. The only other place where it was found, which was where this big question was, Cult Ambush. And so he ruled that could happen. So that was step 1. Step 2 that really pushed me in that direction was that in the Starnes Disciples box, it's an expansion for Genestealer Cults. It's where that gunslinger Cult Eastwood came from, the really cool commander that we never get to use. In that, there was the data cards where they have the bespoke teams that GW builds up for you that are usually terrible and unoptimized. They say, hey, run it like this if you want to, or build your own. And you really should build your own most of the time. But in this, there was a card for a Acolyte fighter named Groust Garl, who it said had the veteran specialism, which is normally illegal. But as we know, Cults didn't get hardly anything in the elites updates other than the sub-factions and some commanders, which is unusable for comps. And so Sheldon ruled that he was going to allow it, because there's also, there's so much stuff like that right now with all this beta rules and all that. Pious Born, the Crusader Gottfried de Montebard or whatever, running with the Astra Militarum, things like that. It is getting like out of hand with some of the stuff that these teams are getting. So he said, yeah, you can run it, but here's the thing. I want it to be exactly as written. I don't want you to take a cutter. I want you to take the saw, things like that, like exactly as it's written on the data card. If you put that on your roster and you also put it as the named character and things like that, and it's your only veteran, you can't double up or any of this weird stuff, I'll let you run it. And so that's what I did, is I had him as my veteran specialist, this Grouse Garl, who is the Acolyte Fighter with a Rock Saw veteran. Let's see, what else did I have? I had that Scout Flamer that I talked about earlier, which is, as Twisted Helix. That's a big thing. I ran everything as Twisted Helix. I had one list for this entire competition. It was a single 20-man take-all-comers list because I was beating the packet, not the player. And so everything was Twisted Helix for that +2 inches to movement. They also get +1 to strength. That doesn't matter to me because I'm not here to kill things in that format. I'm here to dominate on position. And so with Cult Ambush opening doors and things like the veteran spec Rock Saw guy running around, and things like my Scout Specialist Flamer Boy, who's doing 8 inches +2 inches plus the re-rolling for 1 CP, I was just able to really crowd the board and move fast. And so I had a neophyte leader with the chainsword and the web pistol. I had the veteran that I've mentioned earlier, the scout that I mentioned earlier. Then I had an aberrant because he took me to the 20th model, 21 wounds, being a 2-wound model. The aberrant was my combat special. And then other than that, it was all shotgun neophytes. Something like 16? Yeah, 16 shotgun neophytes. And then the 4 specialists. So that was the list.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask there. Did you ever change it? You just said you didn't. That was the only thing I was going to clarify. Okay, cool.
Every match was beat the packet, not the player. This list beats the packet.
Sure. And when deciding to run this, obviously your main thought, I remember talking to you about it a little bit. You generally had the idea, and I think I shared it, that obviously hordes are good. We know that. But you came up with the notion that actually shooting hordes are better than melee hordes, right?
Yes. Yeah, because again, like I've really gone through and I've looked at this. There are 248 weapons in the core rulebook. 75 are melee versus 173 ranged. Of those, 24 are melee with 2 damage versus 49 with range with 2 damage. So when you look at a horde, okay, you have this melee horde, something like Beeranid Hormigaunt spam. You put a Hormigaunt on an objective, he is not contributing to his team. In fact, he's a liability. He can get shot off that suddenly. Oh no scoring. So if somebody sets up 2 inches away with no obscurity, no line of sight blocking terrain, not in long range, anything like that, you're really in trouble, and they're able to snake points away from you on it. And I've always kind of started, well, not always, I've kind of started to feel that shooting hordes are the meta, basically. That you want to still, even if it's on a 5 or a 6, contribute to your team, potentially. Even though this list was not built for killing, I was looking at shooting hordes for a while, knowing that this hold kill thing might come. And that's why I started looking like, oh, wow, cults have just as much for shooting as they do for melee, pretty much. It's an even split of 14 weapons melee, 14 weapons shooting. And that's what kind of started me down this road. And I was like talking about it and brought it up to Alex, Kill Team Academy. I'm like, what do you think about shooting cults? And he's like, I think it's a bad idea. And so it was like, man. And I kept trying to run, the Acolyte spam and things like that, where I would have less models. And finally, I came to Alex and I was like, look at this. What do you think? And I had something like 17 models on the roster. And he texted me back a few hours later. He's like, wait a minute. Can you get to 20 models at 125 with Cults? I'm like, yeah, I have to drop some of the killing. He's like, well, you know that it's not about the killing and everything. Like, yeah. And then so he, texted back and forth for a little bit, and this list was born. And that's it. I think that
I do have
hordes
one question, which is, if that is the case, why aren't we seeing, the same 1 or 2 Tyranid warrior lists, but with all Termagants instead of Hormagaunts?
Well, I think that the Termagant, I don't know, I think it could work. Like, there's a gentleman in your disco that ran that at Adepticon. He didn't run all Termagants. He had some Hormagaunts in there. It's not Zero Stride. It is the guy with the black and yellow Tyranids. You know who I'm talking about?
No.
Okay.
Blank?
He's in there. He's in your disco. No. He's been quiet lately. That's why
okay.
Slipped my mind.
I remember that
just think about it.
Necron Chuck had some Termagants with Devourers on his list, and people were confused by that. But that was that was Nova, I think.
Yeah, the Devourers are really good in Commanders because you can start getting like that +1 to hit aura from the Prime and stuff like that, and then pretty soon you're doing Genestealer level output at 18 inches. But just think about it like this. What have I always said are some of the best teams? AdMech, which is basically shooty horde. What is really strong right now is Imperial Guard, which is basically a shooty horde. What has won the most tournaments that we've seen so far? Eldar, which is like a shooty horde. It's because like 7 inches statistics on your charges, which fails 15 out of 36 when you're going over 7 inches, you're going to take Overwatch even if you fail. You cannot stand on an objective and contribute to your team if somebody's in danger or you're in danger. It's just like, man, there's so much pointing to melee hordes being the way to, shooty hordes being the way to be, especially in the old format where you were doing positional and stuff. You wanted to be able to do positional and still kill if possible, because you might get bad secondaries if you're doing something like Nova, where it's Ultima and it's random. You don't have a set 6 that guaranteed for this mission. This is the right choice. This is what's optimized. This is what I'm taking 3 weeks in advance. You don't know that with some of these formats. And so it's like you got to ask yourself, is there a single auto-hitting melee weapon? Like what's rarer, a successful turn 1 charge or an injury roll by a shooting attack? Successful turn 1 charge, sure, you can get that with a veteran specialist. This can take you 1 CP. You're taking Overwatch. You still might fail. So that's why, like, I wrote a big thing for my Patreon supporters, and I was just like, I think in 2020, I am going to take a shooty horde. And I have 8 teams right now. I've taken top 5 or better with 7 of the 8. The 8th is Tau, that I've never even put on a board before. And I've had them just like this nuclear button this whole time, like, oh, maybe shield drone spam, maybe gun drone spam. There's a few different things now. Okay, this new format's coming. Ooh, rail rifles are looking really good. That Ion is looking really good. The 3-flamer Crisis is looking really good. I can deny points on kills. So, I don't know. I really think shooty hordes are OP. Or just better overall, all other things being equal, starting out of the gate. What favors you a little bit more as the player? Probably playing AdMech versus Orcs. Something like that, It's probably better to be the one that's able to shoot.
Fair enough. But okay, shall we get back to the actual SoCal event? Day 1 was Arena.
Yes. And day 1 was the only one that I fully played in. I dropped on day 2. So I don't know if you really want to talk much about day 2.
We'll have a brief mention of it because it's relevant to the, kind of what we were saying earlier, that that lists are there to beat a specific thing, or rosters are there to beat a specific thing. And when people say, "Oh, is this a good list?" you need to, is it Arena, or is it Open? Is it 100, 125, etc., etc.?
Yeah, people say you can't hit a target you can't see. You actually can in this game by running somebody else's list. Somebody that understands this on a deeper level and is building a gatekeeper or something that understands the packet very well and is built to beat that. If you just run that, you'll win. And you might have an understanding basically on a surface level of what that's, what it is that's causing that win, but with the meta, the actual term of meta, looking at it from a higher perspective, we were playing on a board. The board in Arena Day had corridors. There were doors. And so if you could game some of this, you were playing a meta game at that point, you know? And so that's basically, that was my strategy.
Well, we can definitely talk about doors. But
yeah,
before we get to that, before we get to doors, do you remember? Oh well, I would like you to run down your games, but when most people run down their games, they say, okay, well, I faced, this list, this faction, and because I was against this faction, I decided to do this instead, blah, blah, blah. Right. And I knew that they had a lot of plasma, so I knew that I shouldn't run X or Y. But none of that applies to you, does it?
No, I had 3 wins, 1 tie was the record. The tie counted as a loss and put me for co-third.
Right.
I lost on the tiebreaker, and I lost on the tiebreaker for the BCP thing because BCP doesn't understand a split position. It's not going to be like 1, 2, 3, 3. So it looks like I came in 4th,
yes.
But it's co-third then.
Yes, no, I was stung by that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, man, it's. I played against. First round was Zero Strides, his Thousand Suns. That was actually a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. He had a lot of Zangors, and I don't know. I really rolled very badly. If you look at the beginning of that game, I picked up a die because they made us use the casino dice on stream. That first game was on stream. And I rolled it, and it was a 1. And then I grabbed another one, I rolled it, and it was a 1. And I grabbed another one and rolled it, and it was a 1. It was like, oh no, like this is bad because my dad is a craps dealer in Las Vegas. He deals dice for a living. He's a box man and a casino manager now. And those dice are not meant to be just rolled in a tiny little space. They're meant to be in the tub of the craps table, an 8 to 11 foot table, where they are hitting the table after they leave your hand. They bounce off the table, hit the back of the table, they call them tits. It's a slang. It's these pyramids on the back of the board. They bounce off of that, hit the table, bounce again, and then you have your result. And if it doesn't do any of that, the casino oftentimes will declare that a false roll or a no roll or whatever. They'll just say no, that doesn't count. Roll again. Stickman will pass you the dice. They'll say hit the back. So I didn't like those dice, and you can see halfway through that I was like switching and stuff. But I think overall I must have gotten all the bad juju out of them because I think that people didn't have any problems later. It was just like me rolling, I guess.
Yeah, So you made quite a big deal out of it. So both me and Alex started paying attention to both of the reds.
It was a big deal, and I didn't say anything to anybody.
Oh no, you definitely did.
I did?
Yeah, you made it very clear you weren't happy and you felt that the red dice were cursed. Yeah.
Was that after the game? I don't think I did it before because we were just rushed in.
Can't remember when it was done. Can't remember when it was done.
Start.
But no, both myself and Alex started paying a lot of attention to how the dice were rolling to see if you were right and if it was actually like, oh, we shouldn't be rolling these because they are rolling one way or the other because, as you say, because the area that you're rolling it in isn't big enough or whatever. We did not find that to be the case. However, you'll be able to watch back all of the streams and see what people were rolling.
Yeah, because I think it was statistically, I didn't get as many cult ambushes as I thought I was going to get. Stuff like that. It was like rolling terrible. And it was just like the whole game. Like I got turn 1 charge off with my rock cutter, the veteran. Yeah. And he whiffed both attacks and then got killed on the swing back. Like, oh man, okay, there goes that. So now I have one model that can kill, basically, and the flamer who did actually get a kill that turn, or that thing before dying. Which actually brings us to a neat point, which is coming. We were talking about Vegas and things like that. I almost feel like why do the numbers matter so much? Why do I look at 15 out of 36 odds on a greater than 7-inch charge failing, things like that. It's almost like treat all of your moves like a bet. Like, would you put money on this charge? Would you put $500 on making this charge right now? Because you can do that in a casino. There are professional gamblers in here, and it's what it is that they've studied the odds and they know, okay, this is what's going to happen. And it's like I have this weird kind of a thing, background of being a licensed psychotherapist and somebody that grew up in Las Vegas, where both my parents and my grandmother worked in the casinos. And my dad used to like write programs for, with the roulette wheel, out of 1,000 spins, how many times will this number come up, and stuff like that on the old Commodore 64 computers. I mean, that was his pastime for fun. He'd come home from the casino, dealing for 10 hours and then write programs on the casino stuff. So it's kind of like there was a lot of that. And I think if people watch the stream back, you'll see some things that might not be obvious. Thing number one is you'll see I ran up my veteran spec in that my scout spec in that first game, open the door, run right up the hallway. And I used the the bespoke arena tactic to fire blind Overwatch with a Zangor charging in. Now here's the thing, I got that kill. He charged me with another one. You'll look, and I move him basically to the side as my fallback or my retreat. And it's like, why did I do that? Well, I had picked domination as my secondary. And it's a bit of a psychological ploy where I feel like so much in gaming with humans is based on either fear or greed. There is something in chess. A couple of years ago, I decided my New Year's resolution was I was going to learn to play chess really well. And I learned about something that fascinated me called the poison pawn, basically. And it doesn't have to be a pawn. Queen sacrifices and stuff are some of the most, renowned games in history. But basically the concept is that you put something out there that looks like a blunder, and they take it. It can't help but take it because of that greed motivation and the free piece. Hey, I mean, he made a mistake. I'm going to capitalize on that. But what they did is they opened themselves up to something, or they gave up a strong position. This thing was supporting another thing over here, which supported this other thing over here. And now that it's not there, the link is a little bit weaker. So you'll see on this stream, I get that second charge declared and I retreat back just slightly because you have to move farther away from your opponent, but I also move it to the side because the way it looked, basically the presentation to the opponent was, this is a tough nut to crack. You are not going to be able to get a guy through here. I have these guys backed up here. Maybe he just made a mistake because he moved that guy to the side. Psychologically, you look at that space now between the model and that edge of the board in that hallway, and it looks like a model could fit there. And I don't know if that's why Zero did it or not, but sure enough, he started moving models through that way to challenge that instead of taking that center point, because I had rolled so badly on my cult ambush that I wasn't able to get my guys to that center for domination. I was like, man, if he starts crowding that, I am going to have a hard time. I'm really not going to be maxing that. And so just stuff like that. I don't know, just a neat little aside ramble on that game. Some of what is going on if you watch it back.
Yeah. No, when it comes down to... I mean, I think that's how people have to start looking at it. I mean, you don't have to think of it to that extreme, would I place a bet on this? Maybe that's a good way for beginners to start to think about statistics. Oh, we sound fun, don't we?
Yeah.
But, you need to know what the average of a dice roll is to play this game.
Yeah, well, it makes you have the ability to make informed decisions.
Yeah.
Because you want to have this to where dice don't shut you down. Like, look at that game. Yes, I didn't get the max that I wanted. Yes, things went bad with statistics and math, but I still won because of the fact that it was built into that I am not going to get diced. I want to be able to minimize the effects on that.
Yeah.
Or even just total RNG. I'm at the bastard end of the bell curve. It doesn't throw this entire tournament for me that I've paid hundreds of dollars to come and play at. I want it to be where the dice don't cause me to win or lose. And like I said, I think in the first interview that I ever did with you, I think that you gain a lot as a player as soon as you say to yourself, I will never blame the dice again. Even if it's dice that caused me this loss, there was something I could do about that. Maybe it's a different faction. Some factions are very dependent on the RNG. Certain cult builds are they live and die on the RNG. That's like that the 4 Rockalite list that people like to run. That is murder, one way or the other. It's just, is it you or is it them? And that's why I don't prefer that list, because I've played it in the beginning, and it's just like, man, this is so swingy. If I fail a charge, that's it. It's amazing when stuff goes off and goes your way. I've one-shot commanders with a non-specialist rock cutter. That was amazing. Take 4 wounds or 5 wounds off a Shadow Seer, and just like, boom, your entire commander is lost just on RNG. That's insane. But it's not going to win you tournaments usually. That's the difference when you'll start to go from like 2-2 to 4-0 and stuff like that, or 1-3.
So
3-1, whatever.
Bit of a related question there, I suppose, to throw your way. Do you think, let's say, you've got whatever it is you're running, and your secondaries, you have the ability, if you wish, to take, the killy secondaries, like cut apart, cut off the head, bounty hunters, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have the ability to take, scout the field, engage on all fronts, the positionals. Would you say you are always better to take positionals?
No. There's usually one exception, is when it's positional versus positional. You always need to be able to look at the board and say, with complete honesty to yourself, do I have the advantage or does he? And if it's very matched, like my second day of LVO, or second day of SoCal, it was a 20-man Tyranid list versus a 20-man Tyranid list. We both picked the same secondaries, and we were just like, let's see how it goes on the roll-off, to see who wins.
Yeah, that's rough. Okay.
It would have been smarter to say, okay, I know what he's taking here. I can easily max, the cut apart, for example, by focusing in on some of these Hormiga. So once it's a mirror match, then it's kind of like, oh, well, I know what he's going to do because I want to do that. So when he does what I know he's going to do, now all of a sudden I have an answer for it. That's why secondaries are so important, is because it's like, it lets you change to your opponent. And anytime you can tailor, I think, is a good thing. So especially if you're doing like a take all comers list, you do a lot of times really want to focus on the secondaries to be how you're going to beat this person. Because a lot of times it could be close, stuff like that, especially in a mirror match. So, yeah.
Okay.
That's my thought on that. So, all right. So first game done. Second game. So first game was the Thousand Suns. Second game was versus Drukari. This is the one I tied. That game, I got super tilted. I actually wrote and apologized to Alec, the player, who I played, because I was not at my best in that moment. The thing that happened is we were in this giant warehouse, basically, convention center thing, and where they load in the trucks or something like that, there's a big that roll-up window. And we had like these 50-mile-an-hour gusts coming through, and one blew through, and it was like turn 2 or something like that, and blew a sign over onto our table. And it blew onto the half where I deployed. So all my cults, 20 models that I was in the process of like cult ambushing or whatever, just boom, everywhere. My flip tokens are blowing away, the things that tell you, what guy moved and things like that. And that was just not cool to me. I was like, I don't know, I didn't handle it very well. I think that in a competition, like somebody that takes this seriously, and is trying to legitimize this as a game, as a competitive format, that yes, you should feel comfortable to come and play because, there's no weird arbitrary decisions. Like, they're taking this seriously. We have judges, all that stuff. If you look at a sister game, something like Magic the Gathering, they will call it a dead game, and what we call an irreparable game state. If you even discard to the wrong pile, it's like, oh, this thing died and I accidentally put it on top of my thing. Oh, dead game, tie, or something like that, and so that's what I thought was going to happen, and it didn't. Alec was like, I just came to play pretty much, and he ended up doing a good job. We continued, and basically we went through. I was 5 points ahead, I believe, at the end of turn 3. We started turn 4 with 3 minutes left, and he looked at the time. He goes, "We only have 3 minutes left." I'm like, okay, let's just run through it. And I thought I had it. It was going to get called, and that was it. I was going to win 5 points up. Well, pretty soon it's not the moving phase anymore; it's the shooting phase. And I had broke my last thing, because the thing about it is this list is made to make it to turn 3, max that score, and then if you break, that's fine. I can't score anything else anyway. Big problem, because I broke, and the this phase went really fast. There was nothing really for me to do. I just moved up, a guy onto it. I wrote to him, like I said, I apologize. I hope that we get to play again sometime, and he can kind of see that's not how I normally am, but I kind of felt like the game was dead at that point. He was trying to be helpful. He started setting up my guys again, and I'm like, wait, no, please. Like, don't just start setting things up. It was just not cool. It wasn't cool of me to be a jerk. It was a game. And looking back on it now, I see that, and I feel bad about it. So, so that was turn 2. A deserved loss for poor sportsmanship, I think. And then on to game 3 was versus Janice Gillum of the Nova Open fame, playing her Eldar, her multi-pod winning Eldar. And so sat down with her, and unfortunately she got very diced. I don't think that it was a good representation of what it would be like to play her on fair terms, because she just couldn't get hits and kills and stuff. And so I think I maxed that 18 to 12 or something like that. And that was that. And then last game was versus Eric, Mr. Oodsickle, a buddy of mine. We practiced together and stuff. And it was versus his Tau, and I managed to win that one too. He had just come off top table, so I think that was part of it, was that he might not have been at his best. It was a stressful thing. They had him use a chess clock.
Chess clock.
Yeah. And so he came to me after that, and we just went through the motions, and Colts got the win there. So that was that. That was my 4 games.
Okay, yes, because for anyone that doesn't know, but there was a 5th game played, but it was only the top 2 players played the 5th game. Everybody else only played 4.
Yep, they didn't do a top cut.
Yeah.
Usually you want to have a top 8 or a top 4 cut, and they did.
It was a top 2 cut.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So on the top table.
Yeah.
So it would have been interesting to see that top cut, because Luke Siana and I tied. He had his Tau, I had my Colts. So even if they did a top 4 cut, that would have been cool, because we could have had a definitive answer of between Luke and myself, and for that at the definitive 3rd spot.
How do you feel the day went in general for your HORDE Colts?
Really well. They survived RNG either way. The swings happened, yes, but they got really good scores either way. I think that the worst game for me was the Tau matchup, that last one.
Was it a standard drone spam list?
He had some drones. He ran some shield, some gun, and he and I debated on that a little bit. I told him that I think it's all or nothing. Like, you want to go one way. You're either going to do in this format gun drone spam, or you're going to go shield drone spam, and take one of the other, because I felt like if you split it, you're not doing either one amazingly. And so, yeah. And I think I got initiative that first turn, or that first game. First turn. And with the Colt ambush, I think I rolled well on that. And but that's the thing, is that with Tau drones, he had fly. So some of my shenanigans didn't translate as well to Tau. So there wasn't as much blocking him off. But still gave him a run for his money and managed to pull out that win.
Would you say there could have been anything you could have done better? Maybe change the list a little bit? Not a new list, but a modification now that you've run that list properly? Or any tactical errors you made?
Well, absolutely. The big change would be to switch out the questionable veteran specialist for the Genestealer. Because even though the Genestealer doesn't benefit from the Twisted Helix +2, he's still an 8-inch base move, so it's the same on movement. And he would have buffed my LD. And since the list isn't supposed to kill stuff anyway, having that LD9 would have been a big thing. Because that was the one thing, was not being quite at max by the end of turn 3 and having to wonder, do I even get my turn 4? That was where the stress came from. And it cost me that game with Alec, the Drukari player, I feel. Because if I wouldn't have broken, I would have been able to deny him a couple points maybe, and gotten the one extra point that I would have needed to max. Just some stuff like that. Maybe tie some things up knowing it didn't matter at all if I died. I would be able to spend 1 CP to auto pass a guy on the objective. Just stuff like that. So that would be the change
Okay.
I would make.
So actually,
Yep.
interestingly, because obviously running the what's his name, Groused or something,
Yeah, grass squirrel. Yeah.
Grasgal, running him is like a really niche thing to do. Digging through the data cards of random things that were released and can no longer be bought, kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
and and it's like, oh wow, okay, he's clearly got big plans there. But you're saying, nah, don't do it.
Yeah, I would probably just run it normal. The thing about it is that the list wasn't made to kill, and I was like, well, this one guy can probably do some stuff, but I don't think he made one kill. Like the real MVP
Right.
was the
Flamer?
scout spec with the flamer,
Yeah.
and my combat spec aberrant. He's just so tanky, man. He's like, oh, 2 damage, haha, reduced by 1 to a minimum of 1. Just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he just shrugged it off. Like, what do you
Okay.
got? I can take it. And that second wound was nice too, to kind of buffer a little bit harder for them to get me to that break test.
It's really interesting. Again, I've never had an aberrant do anything bad to me. Like,
Yeah,
it's just, if I've needed to kill it, I've killed it. It's only got a 5-up save. There's no invuln on it, which I'm pretty sure is a mistake, but it's not.
yeah.
Um,
They're also supposed to get +1 attack per every pick attack with their rending claw in 40k.
oh, okay.
So that 2 attack guy would have 4 attacks, 2 with the pick, 2 with the claws.
Well, that would be
It
very
doesn't
different
happen.
in that case, yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, I've
I was
never
pretty.
been scared of them.
Yeah, they are distraction carnifex. They get shot up while your rock cutters and regular acolytes and stuff get close. They're
Yeah, no,
disgusting with Pauper Princes. Like I
sure.
played a game versus Harlequins recently, and it was like, oh man, just like dump a fusion on him, he survives,
Oh wow.
charges in, or whatever. Yeah, and then he's like, oh, here's my 3 attacks, re-rolling all failed, hitting on 3s.
Well,
Yep.
I think the dice might have been with you in that particular matchup, but okay.
Yeah, they're always with you as Pauper Princes, man. It's just
Well,
like
yeah,
the
that's true.
math. Like, fail. I mean, you have 2 options to fail. Both of those get to re-roll. And then you go again to only where 2 options fail. So a lot of times, statistically, you're getting like 2 through, stuff
Hmm.
like that. And that's enough, man, when you're wounding on 2s.
Okay. Did you want to discuss day 2, or you just very briefly? Maybe you want to point out why the list works in arena but doesn't work in open.
Yeah, well, it could work in open. It's just that you're so squishy, and you're going to get to that break test faster. In open, I would probably remove a few bodies and go acolyte spam. I would take acolytes instead of the neophytes, I think. And even though I kind of still feel that shooty hordes is best, I haven't quite figured out a shooty cult list that I'm happy with yet. I know that it's there. I just haven't found it yet.
But
I've been
acolyte
doing.
spam is just as squishy. They're all still T3, 5-up save.
Yep, but when you get into close combat, you're disgusting. And on the
Yes,
open
true.
board, it's a little easier to do that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, there's like more weird sections to set up because you kind of want to do like you want to be charging in teams. Whenever you're playing a melee thing, you want to have 2 guys. And so a lot of times, what I've been doing recently, with some help, I've been playing a little bit with Emmanuel and Alex. We're at SoCal. Emmanuel, the winner of day 2, and he's Mr. Orc, And so it's like for example, you take an acolyte and you stick his toe in a piece of terrain, right? Where okay, this is a charge point. I got something like 5 to 6 inches in this bubble where somebody's going to be able to get charged pretty much. The math starts to favor me here. So I take the acolyte, I put his toe in a piece of cover, and then I butt up a neophyte right behind him. And the neophyte is the one that goes in first. And especially if you have like 2 of these teams set up, it's really kind of cool because it's like, okay, well, this first one goes, you get to fire your Overwatch. Well, let's say you get him to an injury roll, he's only going out on a 5 or 6. It's not the 4-up because he's in cover. He's within 1 inch of that obscuring model or terrain. And then if he gets in, you charge the other guy. But it's cool, like I said, if you have that second team over to the side doing kind of a similar thing, because it's like, okay, the next guy that's covered like that behind his bigger brother, is going to attempt that also. There's 4 chances to get in there. All of them are taking that obscured thing. So you're only going out of action on a 5-up. And if you have 4 guys ready to do that, odds are you're going to get in. You just, if you have enough bodies, eventually they're going to roll a 1, 2, 3, or 4, which doesn't take you out of action if you're obscured and within 1 inch. So that's a big thing, I think. And so on the open board, it makes it easier to kind of do that. There's more little places to stick a toe and to butt up against and things like that. Whereas arena is very much predefined kill zones basically on the map.
Yeah.
You got like this chunk here, it's wide open, there's not too much to get behind. If you get there first, you can be up against the wall as they're coming down a corridor. But other than that, a lot of times you're just running in blind or you're bottlenecked. And I'd rather be using that against an opponent than to have that used against me. So a lot of times I'll just do positional in arena with the Cults, and then on the open board start to bring out more acolyte, chargy, killy boys. In the new format, I really do wonder about aberrants.
Yeah, they make sense, sure.
They're super squishy, but it's like everything's moving to 125 points now. You can take like 2 Rockalites and 4 aberrants and like a leader. And if anything gets in, that's your kill 1, kill more, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's move on from Genestealer Cults a bit. We've kind of covered your SoCal now. And so, forgetting Genestealer Cults, as a more general thing, 100 or 125 points, what's your preference?
I don't have a preference, man.
Okay.
I do what the packet tells me to do. I do think that there are differences. At 125, it puts more pressure on the rosters. I honestly feel that, especially in positional, you'll see more take all comers because I cannot fit the counters that I would really. Even something like Marines. Because you got to think, you're going up, 2, 3 more models in the list, and now you're wanting to maybe split sub-factions, so those little scouts, things like that, they're all doubling up again to be able to run that same list, but it's like Salamanders versus Space Wolves or Iron Hands or whatever you're doing. And it means that you now have a lot less flexibility in that roster. Personally, that's what I've felt, and that's what I've struggled with at 125. Is like, for example, I spent 3 months testing different Astartes, and I don't know. It was just a lot of realizing that they are a very specialized team, that the sub-factions and all the models, all the rosters have some kind of a thing that they are most optimal to set up against. So, if you have a certain enemy that you're facing, a certain gatekeeper list, this is what is the most optimal to bring. And you have to usually a lot of times float models between those perfect counters. This is something we talked about in an earlier interview. That gets harder to do at 125 personally, because there's less swing that can happen. There is more requirement for swing for a model to be able to go between the Horde counter, the Elite counter, and the Shooty Horde counter, for example. What is that going to be? It's going to be something like the Heavy Bolter, the Rocket Launcher, or Missile Launcher, because they'll be able to tailor a little bit. You could do Hellfire Shells against something Elite, or Crack Missiles against something Elite, or Frag Missiles against something a little bit more Horde and spammy, or the normal Shooty Bolter thing against them. So it's kind of like I started finding myself being forced to take models I wasn't thrilled to be taking. Some people, and if people are finding it fun, the big thing is we want people to come out and do cons. We want people to try it out and to come out and to be able to play what they want and hopefully still do well with it. And that's kind of hard to do when it's like, oh, you can only take this many, or you can't play that Terminator, or it's a automatic you're wrong if you do kind of a thing. Whereas at 125, with the new hold and kill meta, until we just saw this recent leak that they're nerfing Death Denied, I had a list with 2 Terminators. All the rest, basically, except for 1 missile launcher, was intercessors, and they were as Iron Hand specials. This is stuff that you just didn't see. For one, you didn't see any Terminators, let alone 2. The other, you didn't see all Primaris and stuff, So it was like, wow, this was cool. And then another thing, you never saw anybody take Iron Hands.
No.
where it was like, this is what all novel, all new, and that's just how it was going to be until they nerfed Death Denied. Sadly, I was going to try and sneak a Nova or a LVO pod win out while people didn't know to expect it.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, just to update you, I did a little poll on my channel. It got 423 votes, which isn't terrible. With 71% saying they prefer to run 125.
Yeah. And
So,
if they're watching the channel, probably competitive players.
well,
So they have their finger on the pulse.
Sure. At least they probably watch me, and I generally talk about competitive things. So even if they are not competitive players, they're obviously into Kill Team in some manner, and hopefully would be willing to attend a tournament, even if they don't consider themselves competitive. And really, I'm very much a firm believer that, as you were saying earlier, we're only going into year 2 of competitive Kill Team. We are still very, very young. The best way that we can get more players is to be accessible to people. If people want to play 125, I'm going to play 125. You know what? 100 might be the more competitive format. It might well be. It might be a more balanced, better game at 100, but I don't care. I want to fill a 32-man tournament. You know?
Yep.
Well,
and right now is because all these gatekeeper lists are trash now. If you run, like I said, if you're running Cormagant spam, that means everything is suddenly kind of viable again. We don't know what you're going to bring. We don't know what to counter. This whole new meta, like I said, you're deliberately keeping things low now. 3 model teams, 4 model teams, just so your guy can't max score. This is weird kind of stuff. You're deliberately not killing that guy because he could mean points in a later turn. Things are changing. And so right now is a great time to be messing around with some of this stuff, because it's like, come try your new stuff. You didn't play a comp before? Well, we're not all seal clubbers at this current moment with this new format.
No, indeed. Indeed, a lot of people, like, for example, we were just saying earlier, guard list absolutely dominates this last year. Well, it hasn't, but I feel it should have, and I don't really know why it hasn't. But moving on from that, you know what? I don't think guard's going to be nearly as strong. They have to take some weak bodies, and those are going to be very easy for you to kill. Does that mean that guard aren't going to be as dominant? I don't know. And, of course, Death Denied has just gone to 3 CP, we know. So that's going to be interesting for Astartes.
Well, just as an aside, it seems as though Alex does not agree with that and is thinking of still keeping it where, 1, you can take the Auspex Intercessor, and 2, you can still, it's still 2 CP Death Denied at LVO. So that'll at least be one more comp where it's sane for you to take Pleb Astartes and rely on some of what you were thinking of doing.
Well, the other thing that we don't know about, and remember that this is coming out a month later than we're recording it, and the Kill Team manual will be out. It seems like almost every faction is going to be getting new tactics. So, us talking now, we don't know what we're talking about. Let's make that clear. But it's possible that those tactics alone redefine the game.
Yeah, every book has winners, and depending on what the winners are, could shift some stuff.
Yeah,
especially for this new.
I think we've looked at it, and Death Guard seem to have 4 pages set aside for their tactics.
No way! How is that even possible?
Yeah, 3 or 4 pages. Yeah, so
they 2 expansions, I think, right? They've had 2 get starting boxes. No, they only had
Death
the 1.
Guard.
They only had
Death Guard haven't had any.
They had that new Terminator box.
Oh yeah, so the Terminator. Yeah, I was thinking back in the original ones. But the Terminator box didn't give them any. You know what though? Thinking about it, it's going to include their commander psychic powers and aura abilities as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they might only be getting 1 or 2 more tactics actually, because they have 6 for the core book, and then they got 2.
Too much.
Or no, 1 from elites, so they've got 7, and then each of their commanders had a special aura, I think. Oh that might just be how many tactics they have. Yeah.
Yeah, they might just have a lot going on between all the different things that are just being copy pasted in. But
Yes,
it seems that what was it? Harlequins seem to have gotten some new stuff, so there's probably
exactly.
at
Yeah.
least more or something. Hopefully.
I, of course, have my well. The Harlequins seem to have gotten some really nice tactics, actually.
Yeah, they
Like,
did get kind of shafted in Elite, so I'm not sure if
they
this is
did.
compensation or what.
Yeah.
If they're maybe they heard all the complaints from my video about it. What is this?
Yeah.
Come on, you said something for every faction, which I
Yeah.
think I'm pretty sure Elucidians and Garpox got shafted again. I
They're
don't think
not
they have any,
factions. GW has decided they're not factions, so
which is sad because
It is. It is.
Gellerpox Chris played 2 rounds of the second day of SoCal and
Yeah.
maxed 18 both
I know.
games.
I know.
So they are a viable thing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. And as
And
we know, obviously, one of the guys in the Discord, he wasn't in the Discord at the time, um, won one of the pods with Elucidian Star Striders.
yeah, that's right. At
Nova.
yeah, Mr. McClure, something McClure. Yeah, Patrick McClure at yeah, Nova. He got a pod win with them. That's right.
Yeah.
So
So
see, they're man, what a wasted opportunity. I don't know. The book's kind of making
yeah.
me salty a little bit from what I've seen so far. I think to follow up the lackluster FAQ, the lackluster product, gives doubt about the game. And I don't want people to have any doubts about the game. I want them to jump in with both feet and
Well,
feel like this decision, you know.
I mean, again, haven't seen the annual whilst saying this, but I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing to give people that are new to the game, right? So they suddenly get a book with, what are there, 30 new missions? That's brilliant. Like
Well, they're not.
that's really
They're
good for a
not.
new competitive or a new casual player. That's great. And that's,
Yeah.
again, we need new people, right? We're a young game.
Yeah.
We can't be exclusionary.
No, I just think that it's like, okay, the reason that they're having to do this in the first place was poor product management. Like, for example, um, they discontinued the commanders boxes, and
Yes.
then later on came out with a supplement for them. Basically, elites is almost, you can almost think about it as a commander supplement, because there's so much in there just for commanders, where half the book is just kind of wasted. You cannot even get some of the things in there anymore. As far as the kill team only boxes, you have to go and get a separate thing, which now you don't have the data cards, stuff like that. So you have to go get the book, just stuff like that. It's a weird way that they did this whole thing with commanders and with some of these expansions.
Well, they're doing the same for Warcry. Warcry's getting an annual, and you can no longer buy the faction-specific cards for
Yeah.
Warcry. So this is just their business model for smaller games, it seems. Now,
Hmm.
it's a real shame that we got caught up in that as early adopters
Yeah.
that tried to buy everything. We're having to buy everything twice. And that's
Yeah.
our bad,
Yeah.
I guess. But
Well, I think that they shouldn't be thinking about this as a smaller game. I think that Big 40K is outdated. I think that in today's society, people are coming into the game from Hearthstone and MTG and things like that, where we're talking things that are streamed, things that are big esport type things that are competitive, things that are very back and forth, you go, I go, like instant interactive, interrupt spells, this and that. The Kill Team has, and Big 40K does not. And I think if they were smarter and not like basically stuck in the 1980s, that they would see that and see that this is the game to be pushing right now, because this is able to be a spectator sport. This is, oh my god, he's going to spin that. Yep, he's going to do it. He's spinning it. Oh, this is a huge upset. Is he going to make it? Oh my god, that's what it is. You could
yeah,
literally have streams like that,
no,
and
I agree. I agree.
can't do that with Big 40K.
No.
Big 40K is going to move all of his models, and then it's just silence, and you hear room noise for 10 minutes.
Oh, and his
They're
opponents walked away from the
what?
table. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of painful to watch some of these bat reps, and I'm very interested in them because I want more competitions. So I'm honestly thinking about diving back into 8th edition with both feet, and I'm just trying to watch some of these things sometimes, like, and get and understand. Oh, what is Eldar up to right now? Are they doing Supdar? I mean, are they just running pure? What is this right now? and it's so hard to watch some of this stuff. It's like, oh my god, this is, and then they're doing all these games, like, okay, 6 games in a single day, 2 hours each. Just like, man, can I do a 12? I'm getting older, man. Can I do a 12-hour day of gaming?
I
Oh no.
definitely can't. I'm happy to just say that now.
Yeah.
I struggle with 3 games of Kill Team. So,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. The
I think
yeah.
6 would be my guilty.
Um,
You know, I wouldn't
yeah.
be able to do anymore. That's why I dropped the second day. It was just like, man, it was just not going good. I was debating not even going, and then the first game we didn't get past round 2, and I had like a 4-point loss or something. It was just, I just checked out. Just like, I cannot do this anymore.
Mm,
I'm just going to hang out. I'm going to go film some stuff. See people that are here from New York that I never get to see other than who's at these events. And so, yeah.
okay. Well, I have plenty of questions, so don't you worry. Let's talk about chess clocks.
Okay.
Now, I think I know your answer to this, but what are your thoughts? Do you think we should be using them? Do you think we should not?
Let's think about this.
Oh, okay. Maybe I've
Chess
preempted
clocks
your
should
answer.
be chess clocks should be optional. It should be a thing to where you can request it. But I feel almost like it's a gotcha if the other guy is not prepared. And at the SoCal Open, people were not prepared.
Sure.
I feel that there are people in this game that came in from Big 40K, where chess clocks are very usual there. And just that experience, even if they're still slow at Big 40 or at Kill Team, just that experience alone is kind of an edge. And so just requesting that is kind of like a psychological gambit that now puts pressure on the other player. And I really want the game to be, I am playing at my best against you playing at your best. Not any kind of weird thing like that is going to preempt a victory or stack the odds somewhat in somebody's favor just because of a conditional circumstance. Now, here's another thing. If somebody is a slow player and a known slow player, which is a thing, and it doesn't come up often, but when it does, that's something that needs to be thought about. I think that chess clock should be available for that. And I also kind of think that if somebody has a comment where it was made about, oh, I think this guy kind of slow played me, they should be able to tell the TO about that. And then the TO would have a judge kind of watching and then have a clock there to kind of even just see, is this guy just BSing or what? Or do we have a problem? Because there are certain formats, again, if you look at the meta stuff, like I was talking about, we are playing on a board, we are playing on a thing with doors, there's ways to game this stuff. We're also playing with a limited time. And there's ways to game that. And you can put, like for one thing you see a lot of times is you'll have a chess clock going, they tap it back to you. Now it's your movement phase, you're moving some guys, and now they're going to check your measurements on your time. Just little things like that. There are ways to cheat that system, and that's something I'm very wary about.
Well, I've mentioned this chess clock question to everybody else I've interviewed so far. And was it Michael? I think it was Michael that pointed out that any time you do anything, you flip the clock.
Correct.
Like yeah. So if you are checking their measurement, you flick the clock to check their measurement in their turn, and then they flick it back to continue.
Well, that's why I'm saying anybody that came into this from 40K tournaments is going to have an edge there, because they will be able to be cognizant, okay, it's not on my time, whereas somebody else isn't thinking about it. But I mean, how big of a thing is that? I don't know. Is that going to win a game automatically? Probably not. But if somebody wasn't prepared for that, and then it's all of a sudden on them, and you've got the lights, you're on stream on top of that, just things like that, I think that it does add some stress to the player. And if somebody's not adaptable, it could cost the game if they're unable to adapt and overcome.
No, I agree. So I have actually never used a chess clock, and if I'd been on the top table, I wouldn't have really known what I was doing. I don't really get stressed, so I wouldn't have been stressed. but I would have just been lost. Like, oh wait, I have to hit it every time. Isn't that a bit much? Ooh. And it would have
Yeah.
thrown me off my game, no doubt. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, you want to be doing things like this is just like a tip on that. I think that if you're just starting out with chess clocks, try and get in the habit of, like, for example, in deployment, when it's their turn to set up a model, don't just stand there and watch them do it. Grab the model that you're putting down next, put him in the position with your finger on it. He taps it back to you. You lift your finger, tap the clock back to him.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of the stuff that you want to be doing. It's a different kind of a processing that happens there, where you're not at liberty as much to wait on what they're doing to decide on what you're doing. You want to think ahead of time. Okay, this guy's probably going to go here. Boom, I'm going to put this here. Okay, clock back to you. As soon as he taps it, I lift my finger. Boop, back to you.
Yeah.
And then another thing you can do also, just put your first guy in reserve. Like that's a big tactic that I think a lot of people don't think about. Is like, if you lose initiative, put your guy in reserve. All of a sudden you're back. They got to put the first model and you can counter it, or they can put the next guy in reserve and go back to you. Something like that. And then you start to see, oh, he doesn't want me to see what he's doing. Okay, well, I'm going to put this guy in the middle of the board in my deployment zone, this little nothing 4-point guy. Back to you. Just like stuff like that. I think that there is gamesmanship to practice there. Just with a little bit of time and effort will become second nature.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to jump around a bit because I've been jotting down questions as we've been going. But doors. How do you feel about doors?
Doors, I don't feel that the interpretation that we commonly use is the correct interpretation. I think that GW
I probably agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that GW, it's kind of like I made a joke before about, like, if I say I'm going to the mall, comma, and in addition, I'm going to buy shoes, does that mean that I can only buy shoes if I go to the mall? You know what I mean? And it's kind of like that. We are very, as a community, as the rules lawyers, it's unfortunate a lot of times because so many people are interpreting things that favor them without any kind of consideration for the other guy who's also paid for this, models and in this tournament and all this stuff, this experience. And we always kind of tend to interpret rules in the way that best favors us, or what the community kind of has said it should be, or something like that. Like, oh, we don't like Tau. So there was this big thing a little bit ago about the Tau savior protocols. We're going to make it to where now, I roll the injury roll because of a technicality. It's like, no. It still says in the FAQ this, stuff like that. So I think that we need to kind of chill out a little bit and say, I do want to play things as close to rule as written as possible. I want to finish the game in the time that is possible and stuff. I want to get through all 4 rounds. I want to max my score, because if I spend any time arguing with you, that honestly means I'm probably not going to max now. So whatever you want, a lot of times I'm going to give it to you anyway. So I'm going to start the game and say, okay, so this piece of terrain is 2 inches tall. We're just going to move over this, yes, without counting it? Okay. And I'm going to set up my guys like this for the cult ambush, so that if my table gets bumped, you'll see that I'm putting a model in between them and then lifting it so that I can move them through there. So even if something changes, it gets bumped, something like that, we're still good. Yes, nodding my head yes to get them to nod their head yes. If they're going to argue with it, okay, whatever you want, a lot of times if it's in reason. But I think we waste a lot of time on this kind of stuff, and I think that we need to realize that GW is writing, oh, when you make a run with this model, well, there's no move called a run. So what do? Do we just not do this now? No. If it's going to create an NPE, if it's going to nerf an entire faction or something, like cults, for example, oh, you can't move and open your door because it doesn't say normal in front. It's like, well, there's only so many kinds of moves in this game. Is it an advance? Because I can't roll a D6 on top of my 6-inch move. No? Okay. So is it a fallback or retreat? I didn't start within 1 inch of a model. I was not charged. I mean, this game is a game. This game has rules. The pawn moves like this. The horse moves like this, the knight. There's only so much stuff you can do in the game. So it's like we need to stop being so restrictive on the other guys and so hard a lot of times. And I think that that's what happened with doors. I said, I'm going to go to the mall, and buy some shoes. And it got turned into, I can only buy shoes. And I don't think that that was the correct interpretation of the spirit of the rule, especially seeing as how they ruled it at Warhammer World, which was no, just open the doors. You can always take your 5 up to try and deny it. You can always just open it if you move. If you make a normal move up to it. I think that's the way to play it.
I agree. I still agree that that's not the way it's written. But I also think that the way it's written is terrible and confusing. Yeah. And even if that is the way they mean to have it played, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, we've done it at several tournaments now, and we know it doesn't work.
Yeah. Also, though, I just don't like doors. I don't think they're good for the game. I think the only thing they can possibly do is stop somebody else from doing something. It is, as people like to throw around in my Discord, a negative play experience. Nobody is having good fun with that. Possibly apart from the person that makes the 5 up and says, haha, you have your entire team stuck behind a door now. It's like, okay, great. You know?
Well, I hated it first, but I tried to find the gamesmanship in it. Like, okay, where is the advantage here? And there are some things like, okay, I'm going to use the recon sweep move from the Tau to move over and open this up, revealing a rail rifle that was hidden. You know, Oodsickle came up with that. There's also just like, oh, this guy's got his Canticle activated and he's parked right up here and he's, going to be re-rolling ones with 5 plasmas just in this thing. I'm going to close the door. Just some stuff like that. I'm going to make him burn through that Canticle that's so valuable to him.
Oh, no. So, to be clear, I don't think that movable line of sight blockers are bad. I think that the way doors currently work are bad. I actually really like the idea of movable line of sight blockers. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that if you could just normal move up no matter what and try to open it, even if there's an enemy model within 5 inches, or I mean within an inch of it, and they can stop it on the 5, that's fine. And then it's
I don't think they should be able to try and stop it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my hard take on doors.
I'm getting to the point where whatever you say to me is fine. I want to know in advance. I'll be able to plan for this packet. Each packet is essentially an effort because we're not getting support from the game company. We're getting it from TOs locally who are taking the time to write this pack, to host the events, to do everything that this company should be doing, that all their peers are doing, that they are not. And so whatever they say is how I'm going to play it.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to look at it these days. Especially as we've said, obviously we're such a new game still. Everybody is trying to find the new thing. When you said that Alex was considering keeping Death Denied 2 CP, I instantly thought, that's a terrible idea. What? But, if that's what he wants to run at his tournament, awesome. I'll play it. If I was there, definitely.
I just find the balance. Like I said, I'm starting to think each packet as an FAQ.
Sure.
It's basically like, okay, for the next 3 months, this is how I play this game. And that's just, the poor TOs that are doing this, they're having to make decisions that GW aren't. GW isn't running these comps like any other peer is doing, and they are beholden to people buying tickets. And look at how many Space Marine players there are. If you nerf the number one, thing that already isn't winning comps, it's just like, why should they come? You got some people that only play Space Marines. Why am I going to go pay and go out there, take the time off work, lost income there, all this stuff to go and hate the experience? It's like, no, give them the chance. We've been running this like this for months. In fact, in the very first expansion of the game, the Fangs of Ulfric, Death Denied 2 CP has been there since that. And I was playing it with that, back when I was doing Astartes. So it's like, it's been in the game basically since day one, if you think about it, even though it only got printed in Elites recently. And we still weren't winning tournaments. And a lot of the tournaments have said expansion tactics and sub-factions and whatnot are all legal since the beginning, basically. We've had things like Servants of the Abyss and stuff like that at most comps. There's only been a few that have been sticklers. So we haven't seen it upset the game. But if it now suddenly stops somebody from coming, if we nerf it, that's a bad thing. Because, GW's not supporting the game, the players are. So we want the players to come. We want no reason for there to be, don't come to this event. So I think it's just like, do what you think is the best for the game.
Yeah,
I can understand why it would be frustrating, but the main argument I see isn't the frustration. The main argument I see against it is, oh, well, they only have the one thing that they do now. That's not tactical. Man, there are
sure.
so many factions where this is the one thing you do. I was playing Necrons. I would bank for Mind Shackle Scarabs every turn.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that mean
Okay.
we need to nerf Mind Shackle Scarabs?
No
You know?
need, because we now have superior inheritance. So Necrons are doing just fine.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of factions where that same argument applies. And you look at stuff like the cults, we have way too many different things, and none of them are what I actually would want. I want another +1 to my hit on the shooting, some
Sure.
kind of a thing there. And in fact, the 3 CP Death Denied cults got that beat because for 3 CP, I can take a dead model and put them right back in my deployment zone.
Yeah, very true. As long as it's
And you
not a
started,
specialist, right?
yep.
Yeah.
But now imagine, I mean, what is that? That could be an aberrant with another 2 wounds, and he's not coming in with a flesh wound. He's just coming back, no worries, and it doesn't count, towards your nerf tests anymore, which is huge
Mm.
for that faction. Like I just
Yeah, that's
described,
big.
the struggle for me was morale.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's at 3 CP. It is definitely not uh, the best shrugging death kind of a thing anymore. And I mean, look at Savior Protocols, which Tau get for free.
Ugh. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Which again, I don't have a problem with. I honestly don't. I've never lost to Tau in a comp. I've never once been beaten by Tau in a competition, and so I don't see the problem with it. A lot of people are complaining about this stuff, but so far I haven't seen too much cheese with it.
fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. I think a lot of people would probably have issues with you saying that tower balanced, specifically drones. But I'm not here to challenge that notion. I think drones
Well,
should
I'm
be
not.
8, but that's fine. That's
Yeah,
fine.
I mean they're definitely good. Um, they are insanely good, actually. I I've I've delayed kind of playing them for a long time. I've had the team.
Yeah.
They're sitting right now on my cabinet, looking at me, all half painted and stuff. Still waiting. Am I going to take them to LVO? Um, Tau are they're gimmicky. They do a thing very well. Once you understand that and you get in and you can beat that, they crumble. They're like that soccer player that somebody looks at and they start rolling around on the ground like their shin is broken. That's kind of Tau.
No,
I feel.
I get that. Hmm, I had done the same thing. I had built a Tau list because nobody where I was played Tau, but
Mm-hmm.
luckily somebody else has begun, so I don't have to play them. But I
You don't
do
have
like to,
hated guy.
yeah, uh, yeah. No, I'm happy that I don't have to play them because I don't like to play good armies. But if it wasn't for that, I do like Tau as a faction actually, just their fluff and their
Yeah.
theme and all that stuff. Um, but yeah, so hopefully I'm going to
I
be
like the shooting
prepared for
board.
Tau.
Yeah, they're cool. Um, I think that once people realize go for the drone's not the thing that's you're gonna shrug off. A lot of times that's the key right there, because the drone isn't going to save your protocol a drone. And all of a sudden, that cheese about, oh, well, I just stopped you from scoring a kill point because I rolled the injury roll that people were just trying to nerf right now in the Discord. Um, it's really a non-issue because
Mm.
it's like, okay, you just the drones. It becomes an issue when it's shield drones, like I said, which nobody did, which shocked me. I'm like waiting. When is this going to happen? Never happened. I was going to run it at LVO, and then now they're doing hold and kill, so that's cool. I saved the event from my cheese.
Perfect.
But at Nova, I'm thinking about going to Nova, and man, I go to Nova and they don't change anything. I'm trying to prove that point. that half of a format is a bad idea.
Well, it'll definitely be very interesting. I mean, I think well, no. So I am having Ben Cash, Kill Team Nova in the Discord, on for an interview sometime in the new year. So we will be discussing what he's going to run at Nova. But he'll be after you. So hopefully he will tell us then what exactly the format is once he's decided. But I know that he's paying attention to what everyone else is doing. So it's pretty exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't instantly count them as just sticking to essentially the GW standard Annihilation format. You know, they might do something crazy. I know that.
I don't mind multiple formats either. I think that's not a thing.
No, definitely.
If they keep doing their own thing, that's actually kind of cool because as much as I thought that the overall kind of a hold one, hold two, hold more was not the be all end all competitive format, I really like playing positionally. And I had a lot of fun playing that. So if they want to keep that around, I have no problem with it. I'm going to Nova either way this year.
Yeah.
So, yep. So I wouldn't mind. I would take this Tau thing I've been thinking about for a year now, something like that, since Bay Area Open. So yeah, it's just been like looking at me. I tore all the guns off my poor drones and made them shield drone conversions. Just looking at me like, what have you done to us? You've mutilated our poor little guns.
The way it should be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've kind of already answered my next question, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. Which do you prefer? So if you had a choice, you had to pick one, Arena or Open?
Arena.
Yeah.
I think that so much depends on terrain. And like we saw at Nova, they tend to run the same terrain every year for their big 40K, and now we've kind of seen this for the kill team. And it's kind of predictable that it's going to be favoring shooty teams. So, because like for the past 2 years, we've had shooty teams win that. So that's just kind of like, it starts to give us an indication that terrain really matters. And that if it's going to keep being terrain, well, terrain is where things start to be outside of balance, I feel.
Okay.
I think that, like for example, you'll see a lot of times when you just go and play casual night or something, you're setting up terrain, and then they start moving terrain over here, and then you grab that piece and move it back over there, and then they move it. None of that happens in Arena.
Yeah. So,
it's just like the board
is your issue? So, what if I believe Alex is talking? Kill Team Academy is talking of doing something similar to this, where every board is set up the same. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And so he's effectively making an open board, but fixing the issues you just said you have. Are you into that, or no? You just prefer? Okay.
Yeah,
so
I think that that's one of the main things. Is I want every board to be playing the same mission, and every board to be on the same map, basically.
Okay.
Same terrain. Like that's one of the problems with Arena. Is a lot of times you'll see tournament organizers running multiple missions at the same time, and I don't like that. I think that it compresses points for some people and elevates points for others because there are different points expectations for the mission. Like for example, on the missions where you have to tag the objective in order to hold it, and it's hold one, score one, hold two, score nothing. You're still just getting that 1 point for the hold one, and then hold that more, or the one in the enemy's deployment zone, all of a sudden you score the third. Just that kind of stuff next to a player that has the hold one, hold two, hold more, and all the right secondaries and stuff like that. It's variance. It's unneeded in the game, and it stops being a question of skill at that point and a question of luck. I don't like RNG.
Do any tournaments actually run it that way? I've only seen tournaments run it as everyone plays the same mission.
No, SoCal.
Oh, no, you're right. They alternated, didn't they? Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. Okay.
But I had a great time at SoCal. It's nothing against Sheldon.
Oh, no,
he's running 30 tables or something like that with, I don't even know how many tables with boards. It's just that's the way that GW designed it to be. Because it's like, okay, you come with all these different boards. You're trying to be a TO.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't tell you everything you needed to run all those boards, so you're making concessions as the tournament organizer.
Sure,
You're doing the best that you can. But in an ideal world, I would like it like what they're talking about for LVO.
Yeah.
Every map is the same. Every mission is the same. Hopefully.
Okay. Fair. Um, so kind of, I don't know if this is worth asking really, after what we just said there, but I do think that terrain obviously is a huge issue. And I think that as a community, we kind of need to figure out the best way to set up terrain, right? Do you think some sort of terrain classification system is a good idea? So, for example, or, do you think it's worth someone putting in the effort of saying, okay, every board should have one large piece of terrain, two small pieces, three medium, five rubble or something, and then we have a definition for each category, and then we also have a suggested way of setting it up per mission kind of thing? Or do you think we're just screwing around? We should just go and get real terrain and run everything in corridors so that it's kind of like it's arena?
I think that while ideal, the tournament scene is too fractured for that at this point. We have Nova doing what Nova does. We have the Kiev format doing what they do. We have the West Coast people doing what they do. The closest unifying thing to that, which I think is a great idea, I was talking to Elliot Miller about it, who's going to be one of the judges at LVO. What they're doing is they're talking with Frontline Gaming about making this board setup purchasable, and especially in future years,
Right.
where you might be able to get it ahead of time, and play it exactly out of the packet, and actually have terrain that's going to be used at the event and things like that. I think that is the closest we're going to get, and I think it's a great move. I'm looking forward to it, because everybody's kind of doing their own thing, and the closer we get to a unified format, the better, I think. For comps, for go play and eat pretzels and drink beer night, bust out all that weird stuff, the venom gorse trees and all that weird stuff that doesn't block any line of sight. Or the terrible terrain that is the new starter set, which is just like one vertical thing pretty much. That's all fine and good for that, but not where we want it to be taken seriously and seen as a viable game, because that's the big challenge right now, is having this not be a specialist game anymore. I don't want this to be a specialist game. I don't see it as that. I see it as more. And I see it as deserving of more from the company. And they're not going to do it at this point. So Frontline Gaming and the TOs from LVO stepping up and kind of making that happen is a good thing. It's like, okay, this is what the terrain's going to be. You can play this at home for your comp stuff, your RTT comps. You get 5 sets of this. That's 10 players. You run three tournaments on that. You use the best coast pairings at. Man, you have a club at that point. And that's great. I think that's the future that gets us to a point where we have our own Friday Night Magic analogs and stuff popping up. Because people know when to go play Magic. They get support to go play and host X-Wing. And we don't have any of that. We have the OP kits where they're giving balloons now. How ridiculous is that? They're so out of touch that we are going to have to take the reins.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to have a really good year, really strong year of tournaments.
I agree.
And I think hopefully going to year 3, we should, who knows, have figured out what we kind of like as a community a little bit more.
The TOs out here on the West Coast are hitting their stride. They are really getting packets out there. They're really, we've had events now. They're figuring this stuff out, and they're doing it player focused, and it's starting to look very good. I am very optimistic for the 2020 season.
Okay, well, I've got 2 more questions before I let you go. One
Before we
is
plug my podcast.
Yes. One is recon sweep with reserves. What are your thoughts?
Recon sweep with reserves. So somebody comes in and then uses recon sweep in the shooting phase.
No.
They pay once.
The secondary objective recon sweep, which is where you have to be in the enemy's deployment zone.
Oh, what's wrong with that?
Reserves obviously allows you to just drop in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's where it starts to become viable. In Arena, I almost never take that.
Oh no, you
There's
never
one
would.
map,
No. No.
yeah, there's one map where I took it with the Colts, but I had planned for that. Like that's the thing about the Colts is I had never played that list before actually sitting down and rolling dice at the comp. But what I did do the night before was I really thought about my movement, and I stayed up till like 1 a.m. practicing deployment from that like little square. I did every map basically how to deploy, where I was going to go, what I needed to hit that win condition, and practice that. And so there was one map where that was viable for my cult list, and the others it was not, which is hard because it's a positional, and you're limited to a choice of 6 secondaries in that map, and it's a positional that in other maps you cannot take. So
Fair enough.
that's
Fair
a
enough.
bad thing for all positional list.
Okay.
Found a way to make it work in one case. Other than that, though, yeah, I see no problems with it because I mean, somebody drops in and does that. What's stopping you from shooting them off? You have counterplay there, and even if it takes you a turn, okay, they score 1 point of it. What do they lose? A 12-point model? They get shot up, or even a 5-point model, something like that. Now you get a kill point for.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. My final question is, I think we all know that turn 1, specifically who moves first and who moves second, decides a hell of a lot in this game. How do you feel we can mitigate that being the deciding factor?
I think if people spent more time on the game and practiced more, they would prefer to go second. Because going second, you still can come in from reserves where you would need to go on an open board.
No.
You can still.
That's not my question. I think everyone agrees going second's almost always better. How can we stop that from being such a deciding factor? For example, and I'm literally thinking of this on the spot. I wrote this down whilst we were talking. I haven't given this any pre-thought. But so one of the big issues, maybe just me saying this will help you think about it, is that let's say you get first turn and you've got all of the, domination, etc. So you get your guys into the center of the board, which then means the enemy can charge you, right? Obviously, you would have much preferred to have gone second so that you could charge the enemy, who now are completely in the open in the center of the board. Or not charge the enemy, but being able to set up all your guys in cover so that you could just blast them off the center, right? Either way, going second's significantly better. How could we fix that? Here's an idea. No central objective. Do not put in some incentive to move to the center of the board turn 1.
Yeah.
Or possibly make it impossible for whatever reason to score for turn 1, right? Something like that,
Well, AITC does something called engineers, where it would be like this objective can only be scored by this unit, and you declare it ahead of the game. That would be something. But I'd be willing to try any of this kind of stuff with a bespoke packet. The thing that I think a lot of people fail to do is to do what in chess is they call it thinking 2-ply or 2 deep or above, which is, okay, I move my guys here. What is the thing that he's going to do? And then what is my movement to that? That's 3-ply. It's my move, your move, my move. And so thinking about that ahead of time, you don't get locked into certain issues as much. Like, okay, I moved my guy up here, but I'm keeping this guy back to shoot this guy. And if he's going to charge in, odds are I'm going to, instead of putting my guy right on the center, I'm going to keep him on the lip of that objective ring, 2 inches back, like the max that I can be to score, to deny his charge as much as possible. I know, okay, he's got that 15 out of 36 odds of failing that now, or a 1 out of 6 chance of success, or whatever it happens to be. So he's going to come up. If he does get in next turn, okay, I fall back, and I got this guy with fly that's going to come on there. He cannot charge him that turn, perhaps, or he's a sitting duck for this guy over here with a big gun. Stuff like that. as soon as you start to think imply, some of these issues don't matter as much. Personally, it's fair. But if somebody wants to change something in a packet, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I'm fine to try it out, because we're all still learning. We did, a couple of years of all positional. You realized, that's not working. Okay, maybe it's something that should just be the exception rather than the rule. We'll play it at Nova once a year and Adepticon or something. Fine, but over here we're going to play this new format. Well, next year it's probably not going to be this format. We're going to grow and adapt and evolve and see what worked and what didn't. These TOs are paying attention, and they're getting packets out like within a week or something, not an FAQ every year that is horribly disappointing.
Well,
So what happens this year will teach us more next year. Not the end of the world if we get a bad secondary or something,
No, definitely. Okay. Well, I think those are all of my questions, and it has been 2 hours, 10 minutes.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So, I suppose it's wrap-up time. Beeranid, is there something you would like to plug?
Yeah, in 2020, I've already started, but it's going to start releasing a new podcast for Kill Team. It's called the Kill Zone Podcast, and its tagline basically is it's real talk from today's top players. So no cheese too cheesy, no punches pulled. Every episode has a topic. I try and bring on an expert that is good about this topic. It's not the same kind of interview that's happening here. It's very focused and direct on just this one thing. What is, a gatekeeper? How do I make them? How do I beat them? Stuff like that. What are the ones that are going to come up soon? That's episode 2. And I brought on Elliot Miller from that, who basically has created some of the biggest gatekeepers. We have Plasma Spam, Pox Spam, the Negavolt stuff. He's won several events. He's done it with a different faction each time. Understands what gatekeepers are and how to beat them, how to make them. Things like that. So that episode, that's what that is. And it's just going to be that kind of a content, trying to give you a deeper understanding of the game, what you need to look for if you're trying to go from a 2-2, dice are controlling how I do at an event, to a more conscious, focused, directed, empowered kind of a way of playing the game. And I'm really excited for it because basically, the way it's going to work is it's going to be one episode for free, one episode to Patreons, alternating. But either way, there's going to be snippets chopped out and put on YouTube. So you'll be able to see, some of the more interesting stuff that's on there. Every episode is going to be made up of a basically introduction that is where I talk about the format, the episode, what's going to happen in it. And then we go on to some news with another guest, then the actual interview, and then some Q&A and stuff at the end, some wrap-up, stuff like that, to kind of really help you sink it in that this is what's going on. And so, that's it. I'm hoping to continue the vlog stuff with the tournaments. Really looking forward to that because I'm hoping to hit all the big ones this year and go from there pretty much.
Okay, where can we find the podcast?
Well, it's going to be available through Patreon or just on my website, on the YouTube. Just Beeranid 40K on YouTube.
Cool.
Yeah.
Are you going to be releasing it as an actual podcast?
Yep. Oh. So it's going to be available however you want to consume content. If you want bite-sized chunks, you can watch it on YouTube. If you want to download the stuff, you can get the free episodes on iTunes, whatnot.
Cool.
All that stuff.
Excellent. I think a lot of people are going to want those podcast-specific episodes. Certainly, it's something I want to do. I'm just lazy.
Yeah. Well, it's only $5 a month, and that's it. And hopefully, it'll be worth it to get some insight from some really, good players talking about some key stuff. Help you win more games. And, I try and answer all the comments I can. I used to answer every single one on every video, but after 1,000, it just started getting insane after a few hours of the video being published. Like all that you've been hearing on my phone, that is a...
I'm going to be editing that out, by the way. Hopefully, the people won't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's like every second, every few minutes, it's like I don't know how to turn it off. So just blow up my phone.
That would have been like the first thing I googled.
Yeah. So I'm not technically savvy, but I'm figuring all this out as I go.
That's fair.
And I'm hoping to provide value. That's what I try and do with this channel. Like I haven't been the most prolific content creator.
Mm.
I think that's the number one critique is it's just I don't put out that much. But it's like, man, 3 months for an Astartes Tactica. It's not just like fly by night, make it up as I go kind of stuff. It's like, no, I ran the math. I built this team. I played it. It won an RTT. Now I'm bringing you 3 months of work to say that this is what's going on. So
Yes.
that's great, but it gets outdated right away. And so with this, it's going to be, now I have kind of a lot of these I've figured out. And I'm playing in tournaments. I'm encountering other people's little archetypes and gatekeepers. I'm talking to people that are making the best. And hopefully I can put out stuff more often now. So the podcast is going to be bi-weekly. So 2 episodes a month. And then a lot more content on YouTube, usually 2 to 3 videos per week, as I take out little choice clips and stuff and post. And then there will be that and the blog format and standard product review stuff and all that normal thing too. So it's going to be a fun year.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm certainly looking forward to it. The more Kill Team content, the better. I know that also, Alex and Emmanuel, sorry, I keep saying his name the French way.
Emmanuel.
Yeah, I don't know why. Because I learned French when I was growing up. So I say, Emmanuel. I know they're thinking of doing not a podcast, a YouTube channel. So yeah, I'm looking forward to more stuff coming out from people that know what they're talking about.
That's gonna be a good one. They're disgusting. Like Emmanuel, okay, he just won SoCal Open, so that's one thing. And then Alex, man, I've never beat him. I've not won one game. He's just the devil, man. Like the last time we were playing, he gets canonical for the reroll ones. I hide, like, haha, my cults will survive. Next turn he spins a CP to have the same one go again. Like, it's a 4-round game. You're killing me here,
Yeah.
So 2 turns. Anything that sticks its head out is just vaporized. He's brutal. He's a nasty, nasty player. So it'll be cool to see what they're putting out. Can't wait.
Yeah. Little aside note, I know that at SoCal, I think he killed his own plasma guy like 3 or 4 times throughout the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He should have won one of the days of SoCal. He's that good of a player. Because he started as we were doing the 3-month preps. And so he was like forged in SoCal prep tournaments. That's all he plays narrative type stuff, but I hope he's got a little bit of black-hearted cheese lord in him, like me, maybe rubbed off on him a tiny bit. It seems that that's the case because he builds some strong stuff, but he does it in a weird way. He's got his pet units that he really likes, and he forces them to work. So it's pretty cool.
Well, I suspect we'll find out soon. Their channel's probably going to be like episodes 1, 2, 3, pretty casual, pretty laid back. But then they're going to run out of things to talk about, just like I have, and they're going to get down to the real dirty stuff. And they're like, okay, look, guys, I don't know how to say it. This is how I win. And they're going to show us how to like load our dice or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Bake it in the oven.
Yeah.
No, I think that they're going to have a really successful thing because like just our local meta for one of the days, I think it was 5 of the top 8 at SoCal. And there were even more players there that I think did it like the other day. And then Stephen Pochel, who took second with his Drukari on one of the days, he comes to some of the events too. So it's like, man, they have a good pool of players to draw from. So it's like, 7 or 8 of top 8 from 2 different days. That's at the second largest Kill Team event that's ever happened, just in their local area.
Yeah.
There could be some really good bat reps that come from that.
I've got to say, one thing I really like to see is to see how the English meta stacks up to the American meta. We will have to figure out how to sort that out one day. Maybe year 3. That could be a year 3 Masters Invitational type thing.
Maybe you'll fly me out to your event that's coming up.
If I fly you out, let's just say my patron's really gonna have to pick up before I could consider that. But yeah, sure.
I'll touch Andy if it's open. I'll move all those boxes I see in the background and lay on there if it means I can come to UK and play.
Are you not going to lie on the sprues of sharpened plastic that I have just lying around? That's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, the dice gods might bless me for that. So a little
Exactly.
bit of pain.
Yeah.
Prove that I'm worthy.
Blood for the blood god, all that. All right.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me on, brother. Appreciate it. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you very much for coming on and talking for the last 2.5 hours almost. Hopefully, I will be a guest on your podcast soon. I've got no idea what we would talk about, but I'm sure I can figure something out.
We're going to cover news all the time.
Okay.
Because we've got opinions, you and I.
I don't know.
We just do this.
I fake my opinions. I really care about nothing in this world, and I just pretend to, so that people watch me on YouTube. Yeah.
Bollocks! I've seen you get upset over the article.
No. Again, all fake.
This is how you play, you plebs. This is how you play competitive that we don't sponsor or care about or foster or do anything a normal company would do.
Yeah.
We're going to tell you what's up.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Beeranid. It's been a good interview as always. Do you have any parting words to the fans? Anyone that has made it this long through the video?
I would say that buy everything. Buy everything that your faction has. Don't be afraid to try something out. Make it happen. Forge your own meta, basically. Make it bend to you. Find the way to do it. Because that's all that this cult thing was. It was people saying that they were the worst faction, and I loved them, and I wanted to make them work. And in this format, certain things started lining up, and the light bulb ticked off, and I happened to have the models that I needed to make this go. And it's just, you can do the same thing. If I can do it, you can do it. I'm not a good player naturally. It is all in preparation. It is understanding numbers and things like that. My original win to loss ratio was like 1 win to every 10 to 12 losses when I first started this game. So don't be afraid to lose either. They're your biggest teacher. And I guess I'll just leave it at that. There's something about when you lose that just sticks with you, and it's like a stick in your, your side, just like, there's something about it. And you think about it, next time I'm going to do this. And suddenly you've created something, and it's yours. Nobody else has it. You are the gatekeeper. So good luck out there, guys. Go win some games.
Awesome. I would like to add to that, as we said earlier, year 2 of Kill Team coming up. It's going to be completely different. Everyone's going to be practicing for the new tournaments, and the new tournaments are playing different primaries. Everything that worked in year 1 might not work in year 2. It's pretty exciting times. Anyway, Thank you very much for staying and listening, everybody. Check out Beeranid's channel. Check out his podcast, his Patreon, etc. Also check out my Patreon, because I don't know why. I don't have any good... I should probably write down a list of reasons for you to check it out. But check it out. Why not? Anyway, Beeranid, do you want to say goodbye?
Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Thanks very much, everybody. See ya.